Hello, my name is Daniel Weaver, and, well, actually, I guess I don't really need to say my name considering I'm the only person who's going to listen to these. Actually, I don't even know if I'm going to listen to them. I might just delete these files once I'm finished. Reliving these nightmares once is going to be more than enough. I'm not sure why I'm even doing this. Maybe it's to meet Sarah halfway, or a quarter of the way, probably less than that. I haven't really given her much. She asked me to start this dream journal yesterday, specifically an audio dream journal. She says I'm a verbal processor, whatever that means. So here I am. I guess if I ever do listen to this in the future, I might have forgotten how my life got to this point. I hope I'll have forgotten. So allow me to recap. I started seeing Sarah a couple weeks ago because of the dreams. I won't forget the dreams. I don't think I'll ever forget the dreams. They're kind of ruining my life. I can't sleep. I'm losing a lot of sleep. I'm just, every time I lay down, I can't seem to close my eyes. I'm afraid of what I'm going to see. During the days, I feel like I'm barely even there, like I'm just kind of floating in this haze. Of course, I told Sarah about all this, and of course, she asked what the dreams were about. I like to think I tried to tell her the truth, but to be honest, I'm not sure if I ever even tried. It's personal, you know? I've seen things in those dreams that I can't even think about. I have to force myself not to think about. And she just wants me to tell her? I mean, she's a therapist, but she's a stranger too. I don't know anything about her. I don't know what she dreams about. She thinks she has the right to every little detail just because she's taken a few more years of schooling than I have. And it's unreal, you know? How do you expect me to open up to someone I don't even know? I do want help. I would have stopped seeing Sarah after the first visit if I didn't. But I can't bring myself to tell her everything, you know? At least not yet. I can't stand the thought of someone looking at me in the eyes and they just know everything. I can't do that. So I lied to her, even though I'm a terrible liar. I tell her about the silly little nightmares I had as a kid, you know, falling off of a bridge, running away from some vague monster, you know, just generic stuff like that. Sarah doesn't buy it. She knows I'm just telling stories, but yeah, that's what led to this journal. So yesterday, she goes on this long spiel about how I need to open up. She never specifically called me out for lying to her, but, you know, I could read between the lines. She knows that I don't trust her and that I'm still climbing up. She started talking about her garden of all things after that. She's a big garden person, loves to be in the garden. I don't really understand that. I've never seen the appeal myself, but yeah, I don't remember everything she said, but the main point was about this particular weed. She says there's this special kind of weed that kind of wraps itself around other plants and it chokes them to death. It's kind of like this parasite or something. To be honest, it was actually kind of interesting. I almost forgot that we were talking about me, but then of course she tied me into her little analogy. She said it's like my head is full of these weeds. I guess my fears are equated to the weeds, I suppose. They're choking my brain, making my thoughts unhealthy. She said that I can't pull myself away from these weeds, just like the plants in her garden can't take the weeds off of themselves. They need someone else to step in to pull off the weeds. But I'm not letting other people step in, right? It's kind of a forced metaphor if you ask me, but I got her point. By now, I think she can tell that I'm not comfortable opening up to her, so she asked me to talk about these dreams with someone I know, somebody I trust. I told her that was not going to be an option. Finally, she settled on this audio journal thing. She said it wasn't as good as talking to real people, but it was still good to get my nightmares out in the open. She probably thinks this will bring me one step closer to actually talking to her or something. To be honest, I don't really see it helping at all. In fact, I think this is all just kind of a waste of time. But I guess I'm going to try it anyway. It's 12:17 right now. I'm completely exhausted, but I've been avoiding my bed for hours now. I really can't put it off anymore. So, sweet dreams. Well, one night in, one dream in. It's 6:47 in the morning. I just woke up. My face and my neck and forehead are all sweaty. It's kind of gross, but I'm actually used to that by now. My heart is just pounding in my chest, just pumping like, I don't know, it almost hurts. I don't know what's wrong with it. Okay, what did I dream about? They say that you forget most parts of a dream within like 5 minutes of waking up, which I think is total bull, even on a good day. But these dreams, there's no way. No way I'm forgetting them. Not this side of hypnosis or something. I can remember everything that happens. I guess I need to. That's kind of the whole point of this journal thing, yeah. It started in my parents' house. I was in my old bedroom. At least that's the first part that I can remember. I'm not exactly sure what I was doing. That part is a little hazy. I think I was playing with my old toys or something, but I wasn't a little kid. I was myself. Anyway, I must have had to pee or something because I got up to go downstairs to the bathroom, which is just off of our kitchen in my folks' home. When I got to the bathroom door, it was closed, but it wasn't latched, which is a little bit odd because, we used to always either keep the door open or latch it if there was somebody in there. So yeah, I knew something was off. Do you know how sometimes in dreams you kind of start to get this sort of this sinking feeling, even though nothing bad has actually happened? It's like your stomach just sort of drops a little bit. There's this very slight, vague sense of dread, barely even there, but still there. It's like how you feel before a test you haven't studied for or something, but worse. I felt that even before I opened the door. There was just something off about the whole scene. I don't know, there was no one around. It was totally silent. Maybe that had something to do with it. Anyway, I pushed the door open, just gently, because I knew something was a little bit off. And it didn't make any sound, even though the real door always squeaks. I didn't turn on the light switch because there was already light kind of streaming in from the kitchen. It was lighting up like maybe half of the bathroom. I couldn't see everything, but I could see enough. Too much. It was Mikey. He's my little brother, Mikey. Only 11 years old. He's only 11 years old. He was hanging from the ceiling, facing away from me. But I knew it was him as soon as I saw him. The rope was twisting around slowly. Almost wasn't even twisting, but pretty soon he twisted around to face me. His eyes were open, but they weren't quite right, They didn't look like his eyes. They looked like those glass eyes that people get, and they put when they lose an eye. They stick those glass eyes in their socket. It looked like that. I don't know. It was awful. He was wearing these camouflage cargo pants, the kind that he always wears. He has like 5 pairs of them. He thinks they look cool. They were sopping wet down his front, dripping. I couldn't smell, of course. You can't smell in a dream, but I knew that he had peed himself. That's actually what happens when you asphyxiate, from what I've read. He just stared at me with those peed pants. His head was leaning to the side, almost casual. I never breathed, actually, not from the moment that I saw him. I didn't notice at first, but then I realized that I couldn't. I tried to inhale, but nothing happens, and I started to panic a bit. It was like this time when I choked on a piece of candy when I was a little kid. My airway just felt like it was totally blocked. It was like that for, I don't know, maybe half a minute. I started feeling a little bit dizzy almost, and then I just woke up sweating, like I mentioned before. I don't know what's going on, I don't know. Mikey is a kid. He couldn't do something like that. He could not do something like that. He wouldn't. But it really shook me up, I don't feel well at all. And it wasn't just the shock of seeing him. I've seen shocking things before in the night, but I just felt so sad. Like, he was gone. He was there, but he was gone in one moment. That's all it took. And I never even knew it was happening until that one moment. I still can't get that picture out of my head. I'm still seeing those eyes staring at me. I'm not going to go back to sleep. I'm not even going to try. But I've talked enough. Guess what? I got 2 whole nights of sleep without any dreams before last night. Honestly, any break I can get is amazing. I'm thankful for anything. But of course, falling asleep is still always a roulette wheel. I don't know what's going to happen, so I'm always nervous. Last night I wasn't quite as lucky. But if there's anything good I can say about it, this dream wasn't as shocking as the last one. Of course, it wasn't great. None of them are great. But I didn't wake up in such a panic this time. It's actually been about an hour since I woke up. I almost forgot to record this. I was so wrapped up in thinking about it, trying to understand what it meant. Like the last one that I recorded, I think this one was just more sad than anything else. And this is unusual. Most of the past dreams that I've had have been horror all the way. But these last 2 have kept me up, not just because they're scary, but because I can't figure them out. Of course, I'm not really convinced that dreams always have to mean something anyway. Okay, so the dream. This one started in the same bathroom, actually. I don't know what the deal with the bathroom is. It's not been a recurring thing in the past. Anyway, Mikey wasn't there this time, thankfully. I was standing in front of the mirror, washing my hands at the sink. I remember looking down at my hands under the water, but it was not water. It wasn't normal water. The sink was, the faucet was pouring out this steady stream of dark red liquid, almost black. I don't know, I guess thinking about it now, it's kind of like blood, but I don't remember it feeling quite like blood. I don't remember feeling anything. And for some reason, I don't have any idea why, this dark red water, blood, or whatever it was, didn't really seem to bother me at the time. I wasn't too concerned about it. It's just one of those surreal things that seem normal in a dream, But when I looked back up at the mirror, something else was different, something that I definitely did notice. My face was there, but it was different. Like, it wasn't my face. The eyes, the nose, the mouth, they weren't my features. It didn't look like anybody's face I knew. It just looked like a face, like a normal generic face. Like, if you've ever seen, like, when they do those crime sketches where they draw a face, but they don't really have a lot of details to work off of, it's kind of like that. Although, to tell you the truth, it was not a bad-looking face. It was a lot more attractive than my own face. Anyway, that was weird, but I left the bathroom and I walked back toward the living room in my folks' house. But it took longer to get there than it would have taken normally. I was walking down like this hallway with wood paneling, and I could see there was lights at the end of this hallway. But this time, as I got closer to the room, I could actually hear a bunch of people talking. There were people there. It was almost like there was a party happening. When I finally got to the living room, I saw that it was completely lit up with lamps. Way more lamps than my parents own. And there were people everywhere, just standing all over the place in the living room. I was able to tell pretty much instantly that these were all people I knew. Like, I saw my parents, Mikey, my grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, even old friends that I haven't seen in years. It was like this overwhelming blur of people, but I knew that they were all there somehow. But like before I could talk to them or anything, I kind of got distracted by the front door of the house, which is right off of the living room. I could see out the door, the little window in the door, and it was totally dark outside, like pitch blackness, which is weird because there's normally a lamppost on the street out in the front, and it lights things up a little bit when it's nighttime. There's nothing out there, nothing, just blackness. I opened the door. I walked across the room and I opened the door and I looked out and there was nothing. Like, I mean, nothing. There was no porch. Everything was just black. It was like I was staring into a void or outer space, like, but with no stars, just black. I turned back around to look at all the people in the living room, and this is where it got a little bit creepier. They were all looking at me, just steady. They were all looking at me. And they all had that face, the one that I had in the mirror. Everybody's face looked the same. They were all, beautiful, but totally expressionless, just looking at me. We stood like that for a few minutes. I was looking around at each of them individually, but they never moved. They just looked at me. And then Mikey stepped forward toward me. I started feeling a little bit panicked. I started feeling that dread. I wasn't really sure what he was going to do. But he actually just walked past me, and he walked right out the door. I barely even saw it happen, but when I turned to look, he was just gone, just out the door and gone. Then my dad did the same thing, and then my mom, and one by one, all of these people walked out the front door, and they stepped out into this void, and they were staring at me the whole time they went. They just totally vanished as soon as they crossed the threshold. Pretty soon, I was completely alone in the room. And I stood like that for a little while in total silence. And I was just looking at the door. And then I heard a creak coming from above me, from upstairs. It was just one creak, like a footstep. And then I woke up. Now, what does this mean exactly? I don't know if it means anything. I don't have a single clue. But it felt kind of crushing almost. It's just like everybody left me. I mean, I was scared. I felt like something was wrong, but I also just felt sad again. Those moments that I stood in that room alone were just like torture. That dread came back, and it was actually stronger than last time, if I'm being honest. I don't know. I'm gonna have to give this some more thought. It's 3:25 in the morning. I didn't actually have a dream. I haven't gone to sleep yet. I think I've been awake for well over 24 hours by now. This isn't rare. It happens. I feel exhausted, honestly, but I can't close my eyes for longer than maybe a minute. My head is just chock full, just full of thought. Not just the nightmares, but everything. Like, why am I dreaming these things? What do they mean? What am I going to do? What am I going to do about this? Am I going to tell Sarah? I still don't think I can bring myself to it. I can't see myself doing that, but what are my other options, right? You have no idea how much I wish I could just turn my brain on silent. When I was 15, I told my parents about something that I'd done. Not really important what it was, but it was bad. It was bad. At the time, I was confused and I was hurt, both mentally and physically. But more than anything, I was just scared. I wasn't just scared of what they would say. I was scared because I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. So I confided in them. And they were disappointed in me. Not so much mad, really. Well, my dad was upset, but the disappointment hurt worst. They grounded me to my room, and they took away my computer. And they told me that they never wanted to hear about anything that I did like that again. And they haven't. And they have not, and they won't. I saw Sarah again yesterday. She asked how the journal was going, and I told her that it was helping. Not really sure if that was a lie or not. She told me about this exercise she wanted me to try. She said I should write my dreams out like they were stories, and then I should change the ending to something better, just rewrite it. I don't know, it sounded like something that she would tell to a child. You know, this isn't that simple. This whole thing, I don't think I can just change the ending. Alright, I had another one. Dream number 3. It was only a little while after I finished that last recording. I actually managed to fall asleep. Exhaustion just took over, and I had another one. It woke me up the same way that most of these dreams do, you know, sweaty, heart pounding, the works. You know, I've already gone over it. To be completely honest, I don't want to talk about this. I really don't even want to think about it. I've been avoiding it for the past couple hours now. But I don't know, I guess there's an off chance that Sarah's right, that this might help somehow. So I'm doing it for her, I guess. Okay, it started in the same place that the last one dropped off. I don't know why they're not normally connected like this, in the same places with the same things. I don't know, these last few have been different. It's like they're part of a series or something. It's weird. Anyway, I was in the living room and all these people were back. They had their normal faces, and they weren't looking at me like last time. In fact, nobody actually seemed to notice I was even there. They were all just kind of talking to each other. Seemed like they were having a good time. I never actually felt this happening, but for some reason, as I'm standing there, I look down, and the front of my pants are soaked. I peed myself, right? Why does this keep coming up? What's the deal with peeing myself? I don't know. With urine, I'm not sure. I wasn't being choked like Mikey was. But still, it happened. I'm actually relieved that I didn't pee the bed in real life. Sometimes that happens when you dream about it. You end up doing it for real. But I didn't. Anyway, I was standing in the middle of the living room, just covered in urine, and I suddenly was feeling very embarrassed, naturally so. So I left to go back to the bathroom again. And I got to the bathroom pretty quickly, and I sat down on the toilet. I don't know, I'm a sitter, not a stander. That much was normal. But before I could, even go or start cleaning my pants or anything, everything just fell away, like right out from under me. It was like one of those roller coasters that do the complete drop, the dead drop. I don't know, most of the times I've dreamed about falling in the past, the panic of it is what wakes me up. I wake up before I actually hit the ground. But this was different. I was falling for a while, actually. But when I finally saw the ground coming up, everything just slowed down. Like I started falling slower, like I'd pulled a parachute or something. I just sort of floated to the ground and I landed gently. And it was totally dark. The whole time I was falling, it was completely dark. Where I landed, totally dark. But for some reason, I don't know, I conveniently had a flashlight now. I'm not sure why. It was a crappy flashlight. Its beam, the little beam of light was really narrow and yellow. It kind of flickered a little bit, but I had a flashlight for some reason. So I started looking around, and I realized that I was in the woods. Not just like a few trees kind of woods. We're talking about like thick, dense forest, right? The trees were everywhere, but I don't remember what kind of trees they were. That's not really important. It was nighttime, or at least that's what I'm guessing, because it was so dark, but again, there was no moon out or stars or anything like that. It was just the trees and blackness. So I just stood there looking around until pretty soon I heard somebody yelling. It sounded like a man, and it was a long ways off. It felt like miles away. I could barely even hear it, but somebody was definitely yelling, and it didn't sound quite like the scream of someone being scared. It wasn't like short and sudden, like you'd been startled. It sounded more like someone was being hurt, like someone who knew it was coming, someone who saw it coming, but was still being put through a lot of pain. It gave me the creeps, understandably. So I started walking in the opposite direction of the yelling. It never actually stopped, the yelling. It just kept droning on, like this guy had titanium lungs or something. So I walked for a while, but then I heard it again. Somebody else this time. This time it sounded like a woman. and it was coming from in front of me, the direction that I was walking. It still sounded like it was coming from a long ways off, but I changed my direction again, away from, the screaming lady and the other yelling. And now I was moving a lot faster. Nothing was chasing me, but I felt like these screams might close in any second, so I was running. And then the trees started to thin out a little bit, and I reached this stream, kind of, that was blocking my path. It wasn't a huge stream, it was pretty narrow, actually. I shone my flashlight on the water, but the beam didn't really, reflect off of the water like it should have. I don't know, something was wrong about the water. I kept looking at it, and it looked thick, kind of murky. And then I eventually realized, although it was pretty hard to tell, that the water was dark red and blackish, kind of close to black, like the water in that last stream in the faucet. But this time it was definitely blood. I could tell just the way it was moving. It was definitely blood. I was convinced that this was not water. Well, I hesitated, of course, not sure whether I could even cross it. But as I stood there, something started to rise out of the middle of the stream, slowly and very steadily, like it was being raised, like on a podium or something, or a pedestal. I shone my light at this thing that was rising in the middle, and I could see that it was a person. It was a man. Eventually, he had raised up all the way to the point where it looked like this guy was standing on the surface of the stream. He looked like one of those ancient statues, like Greek or Roman or something. The ones that are just jacked, like they're supermodels. This figure, this man, if that's what he was, I'm pretty sure that's what he was. He was built like a supermodel. Also, totally naked from what I could tell. Although I couldn't see everything because he was covered in that blood from the stream. He was just drenched in it, head to toe. When my flashlight went on him, it kind of made him glimmer with all this blood flowing down his skin. And I finally looked up to his face. And it was the same face. It was the same face. Face I had in the mirror, the one that my family had. It was that same face, and it was beautiful, honestly. I mean, there's nothing noteworthy about it, but it was just perfect somehow. And then he opened his eyes, and they were like glass, like Mikey's. Just like glass. And he was looking right at me, and I could not look away. It was like I was hypnotized. And this guy, whoever he was, he raised up his hand and he reached out to me like he wanted to hold my hand or something. I could almost reach his hand from the bank of the stream, but I couldn't quite get it. So I started to walk into the stream very gradually. I put one foot in, I stepped in. Before I even knew what I was doing, it was like I had to do it. It was like I didn't have a choice. I had to hold this guy's hand. So I started walking in, and then, pretty soon I was like ankle deep in this blood, and then I was knee deep. I was moving in, and it was really squishy and gross. But I could not stop walking toward this guy. But then I woke up before I even made it to him. I sat up in bed, and I was basically hyperventilating, and I was sweating all over. I don't know what I'm going to do about this. It's shaking me up inside, more than any of these dreams used to before I started recording these. I don't know, something's got to change. I have to change something. Okay, I've made up my mind. I don't know what made me change. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, but I'm gonna send these files to Sarah. I'm gonna tell her about these dreams, for real. I feel like I have to at this point. I don't know, these last few dreams, they've been shaking me up more than normal, making me think about things, about life. I think it's too short not to trust anybody, at least a little bit. So, I probably won't need this journal anymore. This is gonna be my last recording. I hope Sarah understands this more than I do. I'm still not sure. I might be making a mistake, but I have to change this ending somehow. Hi, my name is Joseph Sass, and I wrote Strangleweed, which is a fictional story, though very very slightly inspired by real life. I also wrote and recorded the music used, and the sound effects came from freesound.com under the Creative Commons license. Thank you so much for listening.